Hi guys and girls on YouTube, and welcome to my channel. In this video we're going to be taking a look at this Mitsubishi TV that a customer sent in for repair. Now I'm not sure of the year of construction. It's probably mid 1980s I would have thought, but it could even be early 90s. I don't really know. I can't remember much about Mitsubishi because I did very few of them back in the day. There was nobody around here selling Mitsubishis, and I only remember repairing the odd few, so I might not even have the service manual for it. The most common faults I remember on these was dried out electrolytic capacitors and dry joints on the line driver transformer. And of course the thing that made Mitsubishi famous, where there was models produced called the Blue Diamond, and that actually had a blue glass on the faceplate, whereas most sets had a grey glass. Mitsubishi had blue, and I presume that was to cut down reflections. Now I don't think this is one of the blue versions, because if you look on the front there's actually a glass faceplate held in, well, it should be held in by two clips, but one's actually missing that side. Now it's quite a sleek design, this. If you look at the front, the front panel there reminds me a bit of a Luxor TV, and it's in a brown wooden cabinet. Now what makes this set quite unusual, if we open this door here, you can see there's a button that says AV or TV. So this set has an AV input, but it doesn't have phono connections for the AV input. It actually has a SCART socket. So I might or might not have a service manual for this set. I'm going to have a look around and come back in a little while. Right, so just before I look for the manual, here's the rear view of the set. It's obviously a remote control set, and the remote's missing because there's a holder there for the remote control. If you look at the back there, you can see where the SCART socket is there, and the aerial input. I'm not sure what that panel's there for. And the model number is a CT-2517BM. Power consumption 113 watts. Now I've also noticed on this, if we look at the plug, this has actually been pack tested somewhere in 2022. So I'm wondering if this has probably been bought from a charity shop, but I don't know. It's just one the customers sent in for repair. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the camera, have a look to see if I've got a service manual, and then we'll get the back off and have a look inside. Well, just as I thought, I haven't got a service manual, but what I do have, or what I've been able to find in my collection, is this Your Ass book of common faults from Mitsubishi equipment. So let's have a quick look through here and see if it lists this model, because we might have to cheat a little bit here. We might have to look the common faults up in here. Well, as it happens, this book covers mainly video. There's only a few TVs listed in the back few pages. 36 to 38, there's only 4 pages of TVs, and it doesn't cover the one we've got. So you've got 1 page, 2 page, 3 page. Well, that's it really, because these are video. So we're going to have to play this by ear. We don't have a service manual, we don't have any fault finding information. Let's just get the back off and play it by ear. Yeah, no 2517 listed there. Right, so that's it with the back off. I'll just see if we can get a little bit more light in. Let's just have a look at the CRT first. A59JJZ. There's a board down that side there. There's another board down there. But if we look at the bottom board, this doesn't appear to have had anything done to this bottom board. Now I can see some areas of interest. If we look There's a pair of transistors there. I presume they're the frame output. You can see how black the board is around that resistor, so we'll almost certainly be looking at dried out capacitors. Now the actual layout of this, it looks very, very similar to the Hinari Sunrise TV. The actual, where the components are, and the layout and the printing on the top, is very Hinari type looking. That's your line output transformer. I presume that's the chopper transformer. Down there, the little black one, that's the line driver transformer. That'll have to come out and be resoldered. But I'm not seeing anything at all on that bottom board. The video output transistors on there, they don't have any heatsink, so the chances are they'll want resoldering up. Now I've had a look around and I do see one thing that's been done to this, and it's probably the only thing that's ever been done to it, so it just shows you how reliable these sets actually were. If we just move this panel out with the SCART socket on there, you can see the degaussing thermistor has got Koenig on the top, so that's not original, and there doesn't appear to be a lot of dust on it, so that is quite possibly been changed fairly recently. That is definitely not original, but the rest of it, it looks completely untouched. So I think what we need to do is we need to get that chassis out and have a good look underneath before we do anything else. But yeah, if you remember the Hinari, I think it was the CT for the Sunrise, it looks just like that on the top. Right, so let's get the chassis out then first, have a look underneath. Right, so that's the underneath view. You can see the hot running areas here, the frame output. In fact, there's a few, might not show up on the camera, but there's a few hairs here, so it could be cat or dog hair, so just going to give them a clean off. Now there are some very bad dry joints around this stage, as you'd imagine, of something running so hot, and there's a few capacitors around the hot running stage that we're going to just change anyway, because they'll almost certainly have dried up. And there's a few dry joints here in the line output stage. They might not show up on camera, but I presume that's the feed resistor for the line driver transformer collector feed. Now the line driver transformer, somebody in its life has already soldered that. It might not show up on the camera, but that is shiny solder where the rest is dull. So I'm going to do it again anyway, because it was a common fault with Mitsubishi's. But apart from that, I don't think anything at all has been done under here. There's just the odd dry joint in the power supply, the hot running areas like these resistors, but the main cause for concern is the frame output stage here. So what I'm going to do is stop the camera, we'll do some touching up of the solder, change a few caps, and then I'll reform the main reservoir capacitor, and we'll turn it on, see what we've got, see what the tube's like. That looks all original there on the line output transformer. Right, let's get these dry joints done first. Right, that's it for the resoldering. I don't know how well it shows up on the camera. As you can see, I've resoldered a lot more joints than was probably necessary, but don't worry about that. All you're going to do is make the set even more reliable than it was to start with. But I've resoldered, yeah, a lot more than what's actually necessary. So right, let's start changing some of these capacitors now in these very hot running areas. They'll almost certainly have dried out with the heat generated in this area, so let's get them out next. Right, so that's the caps changed in the hot running area. Just to give you an idea, that's 100 mic, and it's down to 58, 4.6 ohms, so it'll still work, but I've just changed them for good measure, because anything in a hot running area, you need to be just changing it anyway. Right, so the reforming's done. Right, so that's it. The chassis is back in. I've touched up the dry joints on the video output transistors. The strange thing is though, my soldering tip's just worn out, so I'm going to have to look for a new one of them. Now they're very odd, these paste tips. It looks okay, but they seem to lose efficiency, and when you've lost efficiency, it's well past its best, so I just have to look for a new one of them. Right, so I've loads of these tips. But the one we want, the 0406, is it? Yeah, the 0406, we're down to the last one now, so I'll have to get some more of them ordered, but I've loads of other different ones. Right, with a shiny new tip in there, we're ready to do any more soldering that's required. There's one last thing I'm going to do before we turn this telly on and see what happens, and that is to clean all that dirt from around the anode cavity, because we don't want any flashovers under there killing ICs that we might not have. So let's just do that next. Right, so as you can see, get a bit of light on, that's a lot cleaner. I've been very careful not to disturb this purity bar magnet that's been fitted by the factory. But we're all nice and clean around there. Now there was a bit of silicone grease inside here, and I've got a feeling that for Mitsubishi that's factory, so I'm just going to put a little bit more silicone grease back on there before we refit the anode cap. But you can see the difference there. So just a little bit of this round the anode cap to keep it exactly like it was before. You can see the dirt's come off there. That's probably nearly 50 years of dirt on there. Right, so that's the anode cap back in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to clip all these leads back into place just yet, because we might need to pull it out again, you don't know. So what I'm going to do now is turn it around, switch it on, and let's see what happens. Right, so I've not connected it to a signal source just yet. I'm going to power it up and see what happens. But before we power it up, let's just swap the 13 amp fuse in the plug for a 5 amp one. Right, here we go. Just sit the camera down on a tripod first. Switch on at the mains, of course, and then we'll do the telly. 3, 2, 1. Well, that's looking promising. I can hear a hissing. It's lit up on number 5. Don't have a raster yet, but oh, I think, yeah, you can't just see, but they've just got a few sparklies in the background. Volume goes up, down. Let's open that. So what we've got there, we've got brightness, contrast. Yeah, so we've got a bit of something there. The sparklies actually look green, which is a bit worrying. So let's get a signal source connected to it first. But it's powered up anyway. Right, actually now it's been on for 5 minutes or so. The tube seems to be waking up and the picture's vastly improved.
A new series of Matt Baker travels with Mum and Dad.
I have found some other slight issues with it, but it's working basically, and it's a lot better picture than it was.
My kitchen was...
Right, so we've got good focusing. The tube looks really good. I think it might benefit taking this off and cleaning behind it, because it seems to be quite dirty, this. Either this is dirty or the tube's dirty behind. So that will need doing. But one of the big issues I can see is these buttons aren't working. You press them, nothing happens. And the volume, I can turn it down, but it won't go back up again. Unless I press it really, really hard, I can make it go back up. And also, the TV AV button, if I press that, nothing actually happens, and it's gone back to TV. But if you keep pressing it, there, it's in AV mode now, which is indicated by a little dot in there. So these buttons all seem to need changing. See, press it, oh, it's back on, but then now it won't go back to AV very well. I think all these buttons need changing, which could be a bit of a worry, because I'm not just sure what kind of buttons they are. If they're standard tack switches, I'll have them in stock. Ah, there, we're back to the TV again. So yeah, it's really good. The tube's waking up. I've got to sort these buttons out now. So I'm pressing standby, nothing happens. I presume it should go to standby, but nothing happens. Right, so there you go, that's the volume. Press that. Doesn't work, but if you press it really hard, no, it's very reluctant, but it does work. So I don't want to press these too hard and break them. So the next thing is to get this lot out and have a look what kind of buttons they use. But yeah, apart from that, it's looking really, really good. Any banding you can see on the picture is actually coming from the camera. I'm not seeing that. But yeah, it's a really, really good tube on that. Right, so I haven't tried the SCART socket. I've not tried it on AV yet. We'll come to that after. But the first thing is to get these buttons out. But what I have noticed, I don't know whether it's been dropped, but there's like a big crack appeared in the chipboard there. So it might have at one time been knocked. But anyway, let's get a bit of light down there. Let's have a look what the buttons look like. Let's see if we can zoom in. Right, so it's just a matter of taking them boards off and having a look behind. Right, so I've unclipped this board here, but I cannot see how we get to the buttons, which seem to be inside there, inside that thing there. I don't know whether it comes out the front. I'll have to stop the camera and think about this. Right, well, I've not got it out yet, but that's how it comes out. A couple of clips there and it just drops out the front. What's going to be the hardest is this board here, because that doesn't come out the front. So I've just got to find them wires, disconnect them, and then hopefully we'll just pop that out and have a look what the buttons are. Right, so that's your buttons from the top. Let's get one out and see what I've got that'll replace them. Right, so that's one of the tack switches out. Let's go and have a look what we've got. And here we go. That one there, tack switches, that will do. Let's have a look in here. Right, so there's got to be something in here that will do that job. Let's just tip a few out and have a look through them. Right, so I think the most suitablest one I've got is this, and all I've got to do is cut that down so the shaft is the same size as that. I think that will be okay. Right, so that's all 6 buttons replaced there. The reason there's 2 different colours is I couldn't find enough the right height. So the 3 orange ones were a bit longer, and I've cut them down and filed them to be the right size. So we just got to put that back in now. So after a short break, we're back to this again. I've changed all these 6 buttons, they're working absolutely fine.
Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Centre.
Stand by. Right, so that's all done. So we one last issue before we wrap this telly up, and that is the AV button. You see, I click it doesn't always work. So we're going to have to change that one as well. Now the access down here isn't particularly good when you've got big hands. But anyway, that's the next thing to do, is to get that long board out there, and we'll just change the AV button, and then that should wrap this job up. Right, so a bit of jiggling about and it's out. So that's the AV one. That's the one we want to change. It's also got a button fastened to it, which I presume, yeah, just pulls off. So all we've got to do now is find one with the same diameter as that, and that's it, we're done.
A big lead that he did have.
Right, well, I'm jumping the gun here a little bit, saying it's all done. It's not all done until we've actually tested the SCART socket and made it work, and make sure it works. But as you can see now, when I touch the AV, it goes straight to AV. So that's the button sorted out. All I've got to do now is just move it to another bench, and we'll test it with a SCART socket. Right, so that's it, that's running AV now. If I press the button though, it actually stays on AV, and the reason for that is the skybox is set to the pin 8 set to high, so we'll just turn the automatic AV switching off on the skybox, and then I can actually demonstrate this properly. Right, so that's on AV at the moment, automatic SCART. Let's just go into the so it's services, and then system setup, and then picture settings, and what we need to do is turn the SCART control on the skybox to off, and then we'll just store that. That's it. Right, that's it. Now we can demonstrate the AV switching without it automatically changing over when you plug the SCART socket in. So at the moment that's on terrestrial. Push that button there. That's gone to AV. AV, aerial, AV, aerial. So you can see it's vastly different on AV. Right, so I think what I might do now, I'd be really happy if I could take the screen off and clean behind it, because that will make the picture a whole lot better than it already is, and it's good already, but it'll be a lot better if you can clean behind that. And there is one clip missing, so there's only one to take out. So I'm going to just see now if I can get that glass screen off. But yeah, that's perfect, that. So there we go, it's off. The screen's actually quite clean. It's this that's dirty, but it probably doesn't show up on the camera. But let's get that a good clean, stick it back on. Right, look at that now. That'll make a tremendous difference to the picture. I mean, the amount of times I've taken the telly back in the 80s and 90s, and I've repaired a telly and taken it back and cleaned the screen, and people say, oh, you have made a good job of it, it's a lot better picture than it was before. And you know, all I've done is clean the front of the screen to make the better picture. But yeah, that's a vast difference, that. Right, so there we go, that's the glass panel back on the front. Let's just give one last demonstration. I'll just unplug the aerial there, and then that's the AV button on the front. Quick press and we're straight into AV. That's RF. That's AV. Absolutely perfect for a set of that age. Right, all the leads are clipped back into place. I've just given it a very, very light hoover out. I don't want to go too mad because I don't want to disturb anything. The main part where it's got to be cleaners around the anode cavity so you don't have any flashovers. But yeah, that's absolutely fine now. I've just got to get the back on, test it for a while. There'll be no need to ring the customer because he's actually a viewer of mine on YouTube, so I've no doubt he'll see his telly up and running. Alright guys and girls on YouTube, many thanks for watching my channel. Hopefully the next time I do a video I'll get round to repairing something that belongs to me rather than the customer. But in the meantime, just stay tuned in, there will be more stuff coming, and many thanks for watching. Alright everybody, goodbye.